focused on development plans for them, finding out what their needs are, how we can support them. So really just focus on what we can control, and as things roll out.
What if the most dangerous game Caitlin Clark is playing has nothing to do with basketball? While millions have been watching her dominate the court with unreal precision and poise, a darker, dirtier war has been raging where the cameras can't reach. A battle not just against her own front office, but against a league terrified of her unstoppable rise, and a system built to break her long before she could reach her true peak. This isn't about flagrant fouls or friendly rivalries. This is about a hush-hush conspiracy buried so deep inside women's basketball that one brave teammate had to blow the whistle loud enough to shake the whole league. This is the story of how the Indiana Fever turned their backs on their golden girl, how the WNBA looked away from open-season targeting, and how one player's defiance uncovered a rot spreading far beyond one locker room. From her very first tip-off, Caitlin Clark wasn't treated like a rookie learning the ropes. She was the hunted one. Veterans, jealous of her spotlight and million-dollar endorsements before her first pro shot, seemed united by one goal: to welcome her with brutality that felt more like a mugging than competition. This wasn't tough defense. It was a cold, calculated beatdown meant to rattle, bruise, and bury her brilliance. We all saw the viral clip that broke the internet. That ruthless blindside hit from Chicago Sky guard Kennedy Carter that shook the sports world. That wasn't basketball. That was a hit piece disguised as hustle, a warning shot to anyone daring to outshine the establishment. But that wasn't the full picture. Behind it were endless off-ball hits, quiet, cheap shots, and precision elbows, all part of one mission: to crush Caitlin Clark's spirit long before the final buzzer ever could. Veteran players didn't even try to hide it anymore. They openly bragged in interviews about their strategy to rough up Caitlin Clark, hiding behind excuses like, "That's just playoff basketball." But everyone could see the truth. Clark wasn't being treated like a once-in-a-generation superstar who had brought record-breaking attention and money to the league. She was being sacrificed. Every game felt like a trap, every possession a war zone, and every minute on the floor a test of how much punishment one player could endure before breaking. The Indiana Fever's front office, meanwhile, fell into a chilling silence. General Manager Lynn Dunn, the person supposed to protect the team's biggest star, vanished from sight. No press conferences, no public defense, no statements demanding justice. While other organizations rushed to shield their players from even minor controversies, the Fever did nothing as their brightest light was attacked on national television. Fans and analysts began asking the same haunting question: where was Indiana? That silence felt intentional, as if protecting relationships within the league mattered more than protecting Caitlin Clark herself. It was a betrayal so loud in its quiet that it created a storm waiting to explode. And that explosion came from Sophie Cunningham. A veteran who had seen enough, Sophie refused to stay silent any longer. Watching Clark take hit after hit while the league and the Fever looked away, she finally snapped, not in private, but publicly on her own podcast. Her voice, trembling with anger, shattered the wall of silence the WNBA had built around Clark's mistreatment. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She called out the critics, the doubters, and even the league itself, saying with raw emotion, "When people say she's not the face of this league, or that we'd be fine without her, you're dumb as all. You're literally dumb as my." But Sophie wasn't just defending Caitlin Clark's fame. She was exposing the system that had failed her, and forcing the entire WNBA to confront the truth it had tried so hard to hide. She didn't stop there. Sophie Cunningham went even deeper, confirming what many fans had whispered about for months but couldn't prove. This wasn't just a few dirty plays or random bursts of aggression. It was organized. According to Cunningham, rival teams had actually been holding strategy meetings to plan how to physically go after Caitlin Clark, plotting which defenders would deliver the hardest hits, which plays would disguise cheap shots, and how far they could push before the refs intervened. It wasn't competition anymore. It was a coordinated campaign to break her. Her words detonated across the sports world like a bomb. It was the public reckoning the situation had been begging for. A teammate finally shattering the silence and confirming that the abuse wasn't accidental. It was institutional. Within hours, the media seized the story. Fans flooded social media demanding accountability. And the Indiana Fever's leadership could no longer hide behind hollow statements about trusting the officials. Forced into the open, GM Lynn Dunn issued a carefully worded statement that sounded more like a legal settlement than an apology. "We could have done a better job surrounding Caitlin with the right kind of leadership and support. We underestimated how intense things would get and should have been more proactive in protecting our players." It was an astonishing public admission, a quiet confession that the team had failed its biggest star, its fans, and the league itself. But the damage was already done. If the organization knew it hadn't protected Clark, why had it taken a public outcry for them to act? What kind of internal politics had kept them silent while their franchise player was being targeted on national TV? And Sophie wasn't finished. When reports emerged that WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert had allegedly told another player to remind Clark she should be grateful for the platform the league had given her, implying that Clark's fame was owed to the WNBA, not her own talent, Cunningham's patience snapped. She went straight to social media, unleashing a fiery response that made headlines overnight. Cathy Engelbert is the most delusional leader our league has ever had. It was a stunning act of defiance, Cunningham risking her own career to call out the very top of the WNBA power structure. In that moment, she wasn't just defending Caitlin Clark from on-court attacks. She was taking on the entire system, from a GM who failed her own player to a commissioner who appeared to value control and image over truth and safety. What began as a story about one player's mistreatment had evolved into something much larger, an indictment of the WNBA's leadership itself. Cunningham's words turned a local controversy into a national scandal, one that no amount of PR spin could contain. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any more chaotic, another cryptic message appeared. Something far darker was bubbling beneath the surface. A rot so deep that everything revealed so far was only scratching at the edges of a toxic empire. The Indiana Fever's innocent social media post, meant to celebrate its injured stars Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, turned into a PR nightmare within minutes. Beneath smiling rehab footage and upbeat captions, Sophie dropped two words that blew the lid off everything. A sick joke. That tiny comment hit like a grenade. Social media exploded. Analysts, reporters, and fans tore apart every possible meaning. Was she exposing the team's shady medical handling? Mocking the front office's hypocrisy for celebrating players they'd failed to protect? Or hinting that those injuries weren't just bad luck, but the predictable outcome of organizational negligence? Whatever she meant, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a locker room issue anymore. This was a full-blown scandal. A peek into the poison running through the Fever's culture, and maybe through the WNBA itself. The silence, the targeting, the empty apologies. It all looked less like chaos and more like design. And now, thanks to Cunningham's unfiltered defiance, that design was unraveling in front of the world. The scandal wasn't uncovered by investigative reporters or whistleblowers with secret files. It was detonated by loyalty, by one player refusing to watch her teammate be sacrificed to politics and PR spin. Sophie's truth bomb forced a public confession out of GM Lynn Dunn, exposing a catastrophic failure of leadership that fans and journalists had been screaming about for months. It proved that the abuse wasn't an accident. It was a pattern, a system built to protect power, not players. But this saga is far from finished. The fallout has raised more questions than